When it works well, it works really, really well. So I needed to make a short-term cash flow for the business. And we get a load of data from our back office software. We use Xero, so we get output from Xero. I needed to draw these different bits of information together. And I started sort of manually grabbing and copying and pasting. I thought, I wonder if I can do this better. So on a chat with Copilot in Excel, I was saying, can I sort of ingest this data in a way that's a bit easier to manage? I effectively created a data source and basically brings it out in the format, style, and whatever that I need. I wouldn't be able to repeat that without Copilot. That isn't something I now know how to do. It did it for me, and it made life so much easier.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to How I Use AI. This is a super casual 20-minute podcast that's just introducing you to some of these real stories that are happening in AI. I think there's a lot of people currently talking about, wow, AI is wonderful, it's amazing, but where are these real success stories? And I want to share some of the people that I've met, their stories, their successes, the tools they're using, the tools they think are rubbish, and let's just get really digging into the actual real stuff. So I'd really like to welcome Alasdair Walker today, who's a certified and chartered financial planner. He's managing director of Optimum Financial Planning, and he's also co-founder of the Next Wealth AI Lab. I'll put all of those links below, of course. So Alasdair, a very warm welcome to you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Lovely stuff. So let's get straight into it. We don't have much time. This is a short podcast. Tell us about the tools that you've been using in your everyday. What's working, what isn't?
Yeah, sure. So a financial planner spends most of their time either in meetings with clients or after meetings writing up things that they've spoken about with clients or planning for meetings they're going to have with clients. So it's like a super client meeting centric role. And the kind of thin end of the wedge for us for AI was getting an AI transcription bot into the meeting. And it was absolutely transformative. We started off using Zoom just sort of throughout a free transcription service. So we started using that. And then we realized it wasn't very flexible, didn't have very many features, started looking around. We've settled now on Fireflies, which is an off-the-shelf, low monthly cost, easy to set up solution. And we've really just tried hard to leverage it in everything we do. So an obvious thing to do is to kind of write up meeting notes, which is great. It means that I'm spending less time writing my own notes and more time speaking and listening with the client, which is what they pay us for. But it does much, much more than that if you start to sort of dig under the surface a little bit. So we're using it to assess potential vulnerabilities for clients, for example, as maybe a bit of a novel use based on sort of sentiment and the way that questions are answered and asked and those sorts of things. That's really helpful. We're using it to kind of assess how successful a meeting was from the planner's perspective. Did we interrupt the client, for example? Did we answer all the questions that were asked? Did we miss anything? So that kind of assessment of that one thing, which is the audio of a meeting, basically, we can slice lots of different ways and largely automated as well. That's
amazing. I love that kind of AI note taker and AI chatbot combo. There's so much you can do, like you say, in training people to be better in delivering client services. And also in kind of, I find it really useful for marketing purposes. So people will come onto calls and they'll talk about their pain points, and there's nothing stronger than real pain points and details of them to create content to attract more people like that as well. So you can use that to generate leads too. I think, it's definitely one of the most powerful combos. So Fireflies, also a really good security choice as well with Fireflies. They've got SOC 2 level security. It's one of my favorites when it comes to that. Brilliant. Okay. Have you used any other have you used any specific tools designed for financial planning or financial advice? I know there's a lot that are on the market. Are there any that are sticking out to you as particularly good, or are they just repackaged ChatGPT?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. My default choice is off the shelf. because I like to have the control. I'm a bit more techie than a strict non-techie, so I don't mind sort of digging in sort of behind the scenes a little bit and writing prompts and automating things and that sort of stuff. I've spoken to, so I run this sort of conversation community around AI, and I've spoken to people there who just don't have any interest or inclination to do that. And there are some really great, for example, meeting note processing software that fundamentally probably doesn't do anything that differently than I've got Fireflies to do, but it's packaged in a way that allows it to scale quickly, doesn't need somebody like me in the business who can do it all, set it all up. And I know firms that are having real big success with a few of those. So probably the standouts that I mentioned a lot are a company called Saturn and a product called PlannerPal. So they're all around sort of meeting notes. But actually the area that I'm really interested in, and one that we are looking to adopt, another bit of what we do is sort of taking quite sort of complex details from paperwork that people give to us, or paperwork that's provided by product providers. And it's basically somebody's job to sit and read through one form of document and sort of crunch the information in there and put it into something that sort of makes sense. Everyone gives you a different format, everyone gives you different information. And there's a growing sort of number of tools that the most successful so far that I've seen is something called ReLOA. And that's got a fascinating backstory because it was developed originally to help document, I think it's the German nuclear power station documentation. Super technical, lots of sort of like handwritten notes added on top, and really deep sort of complex stuff. And so this company built an algorithm that interpreted that and turned it into a sort of digital knowledge base. And they went, oh, what other sectors have got really technical, very, very deep sort of complex concepts? Oh, financial services. And so they've effectively pivoted that software into a completely different area. And that just helps us reduce the amount of time someone's got to spend, crunching through that data and floating it up in a way that's kind of easy to interpret.
Yeah, I think it's something that people worry a lot about with the data, with analysing data as well, is hallucinations when it comes to sort of off-the-shelf tools. I think it's something. How do you think these tools get around that hallucination issue? And is that a better reason to use them than the likes of, say, ChatGPT's data analysis mode?
Yeah. Hallucinations is an interesting one, isn't it? What I think is kind of reminds me of of doing sort of maths at school. The teacher would always shout, show your workings, and the best tools that I've seen show their workings. So you can, for example, with ReLOA, it effectively, you upload the PDF to their sort of thing that interprets it, and you click one of its interpretations and it will show you where it's lifted it from in the PDF. So you can immediately see if it's messed it up. So it doesn't mean zero human interaction. And I think that's very often the key thing. That's the message that we see over and over again. You aren't going to replace a load of humans with this stuff. You're just going to enhance the work that the humans are doing, because what they're effectively doing is now sense checking something and then spending their time on more productive work for them.
That's a thing that comes up over and over again, regardless of the sector that I'm talking to, is that exact same thing. So the people, and I have seen this and I keep on seeing this, is people saying, I don't need an X because I'll just get AI to do it instead. And it's just not the case. You need to be able to describe what good looks like and recognize it the other side. It's really important.
Absolutely.
So what would you say your biggest success when it comes to AI has been? Whether it's a process, whether it's just a singular result, what do you think has been a real standout moment for you with AI?
There have been a couple of real sort of what I describe as light bulb moments. So just one-offs, and actually they've both been using Copilot. Now, Copilot, I think, is one of the biggest unfulfilled promises of the AI world, right? Because you watch the intro videos and it's just like, wow, it's going to completely change the way I interact with everything. It's going to be amazing. And then you try and use it and it goes, oh, sorry, I can't do that at the moment. Or, it brings you some poem from 3 years ago rather than the business document you were looking at. Yeah. But when it works well, it works really, really well. So the most recent example of this was, I needed to make a short-term cash flow for the business, and we get a load of data from our back office software, which is effectively in proprietary format, but they'll spit it out into CSV files. We use Zero, so we get output from Zero. Again, they can do Excel format, but I needed to draw these different bits of information together, and I started sort of manually grabbing and copying and pasting. I thought, I wonder if I can do this better. So on a chat with Copilot in Excel, I was saying, can I sort of ingest this data in a way that's a bit easier to manage? I effectively created a data source where you drop those individual files you downloaded into a folder, pulls it all through into an automated table, manipulates the data with a pivot table, and basically brings it out in the format, style, and whatever that I need. But most importantly, it means in 3 months' time, when I've got to do it again for the next quarterly board meeting, rather than completely rehash what I was doing, you just drag 3 new files into that folder and it all flows through. And that was done, I had zero, I wouldn't be able to repeat that without Copilot. That isn't something I now know how to do. It did it for me, and it made life so much easier.
It's really nice to hear something positive about Copilot, because I'm in that same sort of school of thought. It's a massive woeful disappointment in everything I try. The more I use it, the more I think, actually, the email integration is kind of okay. It's not as better than the others that I've seen, but it's really good to hear a positive use case. I think that'll be our hook for this episode of the podcast for sure. Amazing. So what would you say, what lessons you've learned? Where did you hope it would be great and it hasn't been? Or what sort of time can you say for other people who are a few steps behind you in their sort of AI journey?
Yeah, I think I spent a lot of time sort of experimenting, spinning wheels. I was building front ends for multiple chatbots. I was like, I could ask the same question to like 5 of them and see which answer's better. And there's kind of free open source software you can do that kind of stuff on.
Yeah,
got a little Raspberry Pi spinning away with some different stuff on it. And after you look back and you go, well, I think that experimentation was really useful because it showed me all the things that weren't very sensible, weren't very useful. So I think experimentation early on in your journey is really important. Not being afraid just to spend a bit of cash on some of the subscriptions if that's the way you want to do it. There's some great. You do some great training stuff. There's stuff on Coursera. OpenAI have a big training bank. They're all really useful. But at some point, what I realized is we've got to start asking for an ROI from this stuff. So we've got to say, right, how do we now deploy this? It's got to meet an aim. So rather than treating it as a solution in search of a problem, you've got to find problems you need to solve and deploy the right tool in the right place for that. And so that's the way I'm trying to think about it now. And it's, this concept of sort of shiny thing syndrome. Something comes up and you're like, oh, that looks great. Oh, this one. Oh, what about this one? Trying to combat a little bit of that, I suppose.
It's hard though, isn't it? It's even when I'm doing workshops and I open ChatGPT and there's a new pop-up, I think, what is it? I'm dying to get into it. But that experiment, another thing that keeps on coming up is dedicating time to experiment. I think it's so important, isn't it? You need to. Everybody's got their own experience of this because everybody's got their own parts of their job they don't enjoy as much, or their own things to optimize, or their own things to innovate and ideas to execute. So it has to be you. It can't really be somebody else saying, oh, use these 3 things for these 3 reasons. So you have to kind of find your way. And that's the way I learned as well, was just pure experimentation. And, now I do it probably an hour a week, even though it's my main job, and I get plenty done in that 1 hour. And I'm still able to find lots of tools. I'll just have this, I call it a playlist, and it's just a list of tools. As I go through the week, I'll just put them quite just into my Asana, actually, and I'll just work through them at the end with the free, or it's for some, if I think it's okay, I might invest in a subscription just for that first month. But just making sure, of course, other people like me, just for who might be listening to this, make sure you're regularly reviewing that with subscription list. It gets incredibly expensive very fast.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. I mean, that's brilliant. There's a lot there. So what would you say, just finally, I always ask this people at the end, how would you advise somebody in your position, a financial planner? They're coming in and they have not used any AI yet. Where would you advise that they get started and get stuck in? What would be your advice there?
So I think it's easiest to kind of let it meet you where you're at. So if you're spending your whole life in your email inbox, maybe look at what Copilot can do to help you crunch a bit of that. If you're in meetings all day, which is basically what I do, then just start inviting AI to those meetings in whatever format's easiest for you. So yeah, I use Fireflies because it's dead easy. One of the things I like about Fireflies is it's kind of service agnostic. So I don't need to be on Teams or Zoom or whatever. I just put the app on the phone, record in the middle of the room. It works out for me. And don't expect it to do anything magical early on. But just getting a set of decent meeting notes from a and a decent set of outcomes from a meeting without having ever had to put a pen to paper, is incredibly, that in itself got us going. So I think that's probably the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. From my perspective, even not being in financial planning, AI note takers, it really changed it. I spend my day in meetings as well. There's a lot of jobs where you do, and it really changed everything. It's almost that kind of, at first it's sort of what do I do with my hands? Okay, and then you learn to start to listen more, and it's a much better experience. Though I have found that when they don't show up, it's a moment of panic and a kind of random, because they do sometimes. I don't know if Fireflies has these problems, but I test a lot out, and I found some of them may not go to every single meeting. They might struggle, and so it's a bit of a panic moment. Then I recommend just getting used to the manual record in those situations.
Oh yeah. I mean, just on that, the worst is when you realise you've forgotten to hit record. So you've got the app, you've spoken to the client, you've said, "I'd like to record this meeting. Is that okay?" They say yes. You say, "Right, here it is," and you've not hit record. You've had an hour speaking away, you're having a really great chat. Then you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm now going to have to write some meeting notes for the first time in the last 3 months."
Yeah,
it's awful.
Yeah, and it's something that's so happily left behind, isn't it? It's something I do not miss. I do not miss kind of drowning in paperwork as well, and trying to reread my own writing as well. But that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Alasdair. I really appreciate it. If people want to get in touch about the Next Wealth AI Lab or about financial planning themselves, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can find me. The easiest place to find me is probably, I've got a link tree, which is on financialwalker.uk. It's got the business website. It's got me on LinkedIn. It's got all that sort of stuff. So that's financialwalker.uk.
Excellent. I will put that into the show notes beneath. Thank you so much, Alasdair. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat again soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye.